Who is Katy Cottam?
I am the founder and CEO of Luna Daily.
Meet Katy Cottam, CEO and visionary behind Luna Daily, redefining self-care and breaking taboos in women's health.
We have a female health crisis on our hands. Cervical cancer is 99.6% preventable by a cervical screening, and 1 in 3 women don't go to their screening because they say they're embarrassed.
Oh my God.
My mission is to connect women of all ages and stages to each other and their entire bodies. Our strapline is head, vulva, knees and toes.
I don't mind saying vulva. Vulva, vulva, vulva. Vagina is the most censored word on social media. Why?
Because
it'll be interesting to see if this podcast gets banned because we've said the word vulva.
But let's see if we can break the algorithm. I'm going to get emotional. I really want more people to feel like I feel now and less people to feel like I did as a teenager. And I want more little girls to grow up not feeling ashamed or confused or embarrassed. Just as I am passionate about making the vulva as normal as any other body part, I am about boobs and butts and perineums and nipples and bellies. And I really believe that all of those body parts should be as normal as everywhere else.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Abby Clancy and welcome to Exhibit A. Joining me today is the inspiring founder behind the pioneering brand Luna Daily that's transforming self-care for women with a mission to educate, empower and break down taboos. Please welcome Katy Cottam. Who is Katy Cottam?
Well, I am the founder and CEO of Luna Daily. I'm also a sister. I've got 2 sisters and 3 goddaughters. And
Surrounded by girls.
Surrounded by girls. Yeah, my poor dad always grew up with lots of girls. And I'm at a really, really exciting point of my life personally and professionally. And I'm just really freaking excited to be here talking to you about it.
No, thanks so much for coming on. I love this brand. So thank you for coming on. So why did you start Luna Daily and what is your mission with the brand?
So the story of Luna Daily goes back to my teenage years. And when I was 19, I was put on a really intensive course of antibiotics after being really ill. And they fundamentally changed my microbiome. They completely screwed it up. My skin, my gut, I had all sorts of issues. And one of the health issues I had is I got thrush.
Oh, yeah.
And I can still today remember how ashamed, embarrassed, confused I felt. And critically for me, from that moment onwards, I wasn't able to use traditional body products, body washes, soaps, other products to care for my intimate skin and my more sensitive skin areas. But I really resented that the only solutions available to me were these like niche use, outdated, synthetic, embarrassing products that we call feminine hygiene products. And they come with...
sitting on the shelf, everyone knows that is to wash your vagina with.
To wash your vulva with, hopefully.
Oh yeah? I don't know. I still don't know what a vulva or a vagina is.
No one does. No one does.
Like,
there we go. Yeah. And honestly, until like 5 years ago, I didn't.
But we're not taught these things. We're not even taught how to wash our intimate areas.
No, exactly. Exactly.
And what's safe, what's not.
Yeah. And, that is ultimately the crux of the problem.
Yeah.
But I could see that all that was available to me to use were these products. And as you said, they're like really embarrassing. Like if you've seen one in someone's shower, someone's like, oh, what's wrong with her? Like, you assume something's wrong.
Of course.
And
you do, actually?
Yeah, you do. And it's because people only really buy those sorts of products if they've had a problem. Like, and so it's this like awful cycle of shame. But anyway, ever since then, I felt like it's a really underserving category for women and people with vulvas. And so to cut a long story short, because I know we're going to go into it, in pandemic 1, I quit my job, my big corporate job, to set out to create Luna Daily. And so my mission is to connect women of all ages and stages to each other and their entire bodies.
Yeah.
Our strapline is head, vulva, knees and toes.
I love that.
And we are a microbiome balancing body care brand for all skin, even your most intimate. And as well as creating a new category of products for women at all ages of life, I'm really passionate about normalising the conversation and trying to help change education for women as well.
Which is so important, especially me as a mother of 2 young girls. I was never taught what to do, what to use. It's not something... you learn that you do the basic sex education or personal hygiene in school, but nothing really delves deep into it. What were some of the key issues you found when doing your research before you built the brand?
Well, there was 3, but that was the first one. And it's that we're just not taught about it at school. 90% of women were not taught about basic intimate care at school. Like I can remember the Tampax lady coming in, and I can remember putting a condom on a banana. And I can remember like the pictures of like fallopian tubes and like real anatomy, but not really about
a real human.
And a great example is we're not taught the difference between a vulva and a vagina. And so very simply, your vulva is external, anything external. And your vagina is internal.
Okay.
And so
I thought it was the other way around until I had the sex doctor on the Gynae Geek, and they told me otherwise, and I should know this. I've had 4, but they say vaginal births.
Yeah. It's not our fault that, that we
because
grow up not being taught.
it's an embarrassing question to ask. Like, what is your vulva? Where is your vulva? What is your vagina? Where is your vagina?
And it's embarrassing because we're never taught, and because we're not taught at school. And because we're not taught at school, we're then all a bit confused, and then misinformation fills in those confusion gaps. But also because we don't use anatomically correct language, we're not taught that growing up. We're actually taught, most of us, to use like euphemisms. Like in your house, what would your girls call their vulvas or their vaginas?
I'd say front bum.
Yeah, front bum.
Front bum, or like fanny. Oh my God.
Yeah, and that's the thing, but like we're not...
I don't think I'd say fanny to a child. Yeah. I don't know what... Well, that's the thing. I don't think I've ever said the word to my girls.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it, because I definitely wouldn't say fanny to them. Yeah. Fanny's like quite a jokey kind. It's not very nice word. Yeah. I'd say front bum.
Yeah. Well, the reason there's like lots of reasons why we should try and use anatomically correct language, and we need to as a society, because the first thing is that we grow up confused. And so 1 in 3 women are washing inside the vagina, like in their daily washing routines, and the vagina is internal and completely self-cleaning, and you should never use any products, even water, because it's like completely self-cleaning.
How is it self-cleaning?
So it's because it's the internal part of your ecosystem, kind of female anatomy. It has a very specific environment that's actually very different to the microbiome on our external skin, including our vulva. And it has a very delicate environment, but it has an entire mechanism that self-cleans.
That's so amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's a really unique makeup of the bacteria that's in there. But as a result, it's more sensitive because it's slightly more acidic than the rest of our body. But because we're not taught like the difference between like, that bit's your vagina, that bit's your vulva, loads of girls just call it the vagina or just call it down there. And then we're not taught about like washing routines. And because we're not taught the difference between those, on the one hand, we have like a health crisis on our hands, because nearly 1 in 2 women's washing routines have caused them a gynecological issue, and pretty much every gynecological issue is on the rise. But also there's much bigger topics around like safety and education for kids about not using anatomically correct language, because partly we fill in those gaps with kind of shame and misinformation. But also it's really important if a child wants to explain pain. We have a medical collective that we work with on the brand, and they, often they'll tell me how many people come in not being able to like explain the body part they're talking about.
Sure.
Really sadly, it's really important for kids growing up to be able to explain abuse. The collective tell us. But also, because we don't talk about vulvas and because we don't see vulvas, often the first time a child, or a teenager will see a vulva is in porn. And that's not a realistic expectation of what, all different body parts look like. But labiaplasty is the fastest growing plastic surgery in the UK. And this kind of lack of information about seeing, talking, being educated about vulvas drives kind of real shame, real misinformation, real embarrassment.
Why? So what surgeries are they doing down there?
So labiaplasty is when you have your vulval lips altered because you're not happy with them, either that you think they are too long, that they are not the same shape, that you don't like the look of them. And so people have them removed or cut or changed in shape.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Is that what we're calling a designer vagina?
Probably, yeah.
Vagina is the most censored word on social media. Like, why?
So vagina is one of the most censored words on social media. And it's so sad because if we're not being taught this at school, social media is now the number 2 education platform after school where people learn, about topics. And it's one of the most censored words.
Is penis censored in the same way?
No. So it's was about to say it's interesting. It's not. It's really sad. So
It's
basically,
sad.
we've actually campaigned against Meta. So Meta, who own Facebook and Instagram, because we've proven that it's gendered. We've worked with a company in America called the Center for Intimacy of Justice, and they surveyed all these female brands, and every single female brand they surveyed had an ad blocked. Yet there are loads of brands marketing erectile dysfunction to men or other products to men that aren't blocked. So we know it's a gendered issue. And the problem with it is that it comes, they say it comes from a place of protecting people, that, we need to make sure people aren't being exposed to content and young people aren't being exposed to content that could be dangerous. But in the setting of, our ads where we're talking about a body part that shouldn't, it should be as normal as any other body part, like head, vulva, knees and toes. It's so sad that it's being censored because it's meaning that people aren't getting that education on a platform that could provide such education outside of schooling and the education system.
That is crazy. Because of this lack of education, there is some confusion around, female hygiene and care.
And I suppose the result of that is that we have a female health crisis on our hands. On the one hand, nearly every gynecological issue is on the rise, and lots of those issues are being caused by the washing routines or the products that people are using. And I get really mad with the feminine hygiene industry because most of the industry, it's lied to women. It's mainly set up and run by men, and it's marketing that you need these specific products for this body part, which you don't. Your vulva is just skin. It's actually very similar to the skin under your arms, which is why you grow hair in both regions. So there's this whole industry that has marketed on women's shame, which really frustrates me because it just further drives the embarrassment. But on the other hand, if we think about what this embarrassment is doing, and I'll give you one example. So cervical cancer in the UK, it's one of the 5 gynecological cancers. Cervical cancer is 99.6% preventable by a cervical screening, which is offered for free in the UK. And 1 in 3 women don't go to their screening because they say they're embarrassed.
Yeah.
And it's just what?
It's quite traumatic though, to be fair. Most women, don't even look at their own parts. So to lie on a bed with your feet in stirrups at someone poke, I get it. For me, having a smear is one of the worst things to do, but I do them.
Exactly.
I always do them. I do not miss them. I do it every single year because, as you say, it can be prevented or treated. But I do get why it's hard for a lot of women to do.
Yeah. But it's this idea that
but we shouldn't be embarrassed.
Yeah, particularly to go and see, a health professional. And big part of my mission is to normalise conversations. That doesn't mean you have to be ready to shout it from the rooftops. But maybe somebody watching will be inspired to ask their mate about something or ask their mum or speak to their daughter about something. Because I am proof that the more you talk about it, the less it becomes embarrassing. I no longer mind saying that I got a thrush when I was 19, or I don't mind using the word vulva. I'm proof that I'm no longer embarrassed. And I want, more people to feel like that.
What are we supposed to be using on our intimate areas? We're not taught how to do it. What should we be doing? What product should we be using?
The first thing I would say is that it should be a woman's choice. With every other body part, whether it's your hair care routine, your makeup, you have a choice. And what you choose to do should be your choice.
Yeah.
But I think everybody should have the information to make that choice. The first thing that is a lie that's told to us is that you need separate products for your intimate areas. Okay. And we just don't, because your vulva is just skin. I said it earlier, but it's very similar to the skin under your armpits, which is why you grow hair in both regions. And it's just skin. Now, where the confusion comes from is the difference between the vulva and the vagina. And because the vagina, which is the internal bit, is self-cleaning, that's the bit that's not meant to be washed with any products whatsoever.
Okay.
Now, it's actually recommended to give your external skin a daily cleanse, just like anywhere else on your body.
Do you think the confusion is that some women feel like if they don't clean inside, they're not clean, or it's going to smell?
Maybe, but the truth is that every woman will have her own odour all over her body.
Yeah.
And if that changes, it might be a sign that, you've got a problem that you need to see a doctor about. And so you definitely shouldn't be trying to mask things with products.
Okay.
So the main message is only ever cleanse externally.
Sure.
And I think the thing that is driving lots of the problems is that more and more we're using highly fragranced, really rich body washes. In our focus groups, there is a specific body wash I won't name, but it's mint flavoured. And so many women have used it down there and been like, never again.
Oh my God.
And so, but the truth is all of our bodies would be better off using microbiome balancing products because they're much gentler for the skin and they kind of mean that, you know, if you're suffering with skin conditions anywhere in your body, like dry skin, red skin, flaky skin, it might be because your microbiome's off kilter.
So there's so many conversations now about gut health and what we put inside our bodies, and there's a real focus on that. But there doesn't seem to be as much focus on what we put on our skin topically.
Yeah, so it's so true. Like our overall health, whether that's internal or external, is so, you know, we now understand that it's so holistic.
Yeah.
But if we think about your skin is your biggest organ, and most of our skin is beneath our neck, you know, 94, 96% of our skin is beneath here. And you're right, so often it's kind of an afterthought.
Yeah.
The simplest way I can explain the microbiome of our skin is, do you remember a pH scale from school that was like acidic stuff, like orange juice was like orange, and really alkaline stuff was like
Blue.
dark purple, blue. Well, all of our skin is slightly acidic. So it's about, healthy skin is about pH 4 or 5.
Okay.
So water is 7, so it's slightly more alkaline than skin. And it's really important that our skin, all over our body, intimate skin, everywhere on the body, stays within that healthy 4 or 5 range, because that's where the healthy bacteria thrive. And if your bacteria are healthy and happy, they protect your skin from all the external factors. This will blow your mind.
How do you test that? How do you know if you've got the right?
So the easiest way to know is if your skin feels really healthy, if it doesn't feel overly dry, red, itchy, if you don't struggle from things like eczema, psoriasis, which can also be, you know, a microbiome, which can also mean your microbiome's out of balance. But if your skin feels happy and healthy, it feels really nourished, you're not struggling with acne, you're not struggling with dryness, itchiness, which actually, if you think about it, most of us struggle with those things.
Oh yeah, I was just thinking, mine's definitely off balance because I've got dry, I'm red.
But if I tell you this, I think this will shock you. So if our skin is 4 or 5 and water's about 7, most shampoos are about 8 to 10. Soap, which is the main ingredient in soap bars, shower gels, lots of other products, is pH 12. And for context, bleach is pH 13. And so most of us all over our bodies, let alone on areas like intimate skin that are more sensitive, are using products. You would dream
of putting bleach on your skin, would you?
Exactly. Like if I was to step out the shower and use a normal soap bar, I can literally feel like my skin is like dry and like tight.
Yeah.
And the reason where it all came from is that soap, back in the olden days, and I always think of history lessons where like once a week the family would be able to have a bath in like the silver tub and they could only afford hot water once a week. Soap is a really amazing surfactant for removing grit and grime and dirt, and it's really cheap. And so back in the olden days, it was amazing. Like, you know, you're literally removing dirt. But because it's really cheap and synthetic and easy, it's still in so many products and so it's used. But the fact that so many of the products we're using are like literally stripping our skin of all the healthy bacteria. And the result is that all these skin conditions that, particularly in those areas that are more sensitive, they just sort of present themselves more. But the truth is, probably our whole bodies would be better off using products that are more considered to suit the microbiome so that it can thrive.
But what about the water itself? Does that strip the microbiome?
So it's really
I was having a conversation with someone, and she was convinced, in LA this was, and she was convinced that, you know, people get like the rise in cancers as well. It's not only like what we eat, what we put into our bodies, what we put on our bodies. And one of her theories was water. You know, getting showered every day. Is that safe?
Yeah, so water is pH 7 typically. And so actually the latest guidelines from the NHS is to not just cleanse your external intimate skin with just water, because it's actually not quite right, it's a bit drying, but to use a pH balanced product.
Yeah.
There are definitely cases where certain cities or urban areas, the water is a lot harder, it's got much higher mineral content, or it's just full of pollutants, like it's just full of crap, because like we live in London. And so there definitely are studies that show, you know, if the water's been polluted and that's then going on our skin, it can have an impact. Yeah.
That's so scary, isn't it? So your campaign, the Vulva Therapy, how was that initially received?
Well, I'll tell you a little bit about the campaign and then I'll tell you how it was received. So the insight behind the campaign was that we're not born feeling embarrassed of the word vulva. We're not born with it. It's instilled in it as we grow up, you know, by not using the word, and maybe taught euphemisms, and by being embarrassed and ashamed. And so the idea behind Vulva Therapy is we worked with exposure therapists to launch the world's first free vulva therapy hotline. And so you can phone up the hotline. It's 0800 233 LUNA in the UK. And you can go through 4 exercises that we worked with exposure therapists to free yourself from the stigma and shame.
What's an exposure therapist?
So I'll give you an example.
Okay.
This is my favourite one. So she's got a great voice, but she says, okay, I want you to imagine a situation. You're looking after a friend's dog. The dog's called Vulva. Yeah, weird, get it, but it's 2024, whatever. You take Vulva to the park and you let her off the lead and she bolts. So you've got no choice, but in the middle of the park, you've got to shout, Vulva, Vulva.
Yeah.
And eventually Vulva comes back, you put her back on the lead and the world goes on. See, that wasn't so hard, was it? It's just a word, head, vulva, knees and toes.
Sure.
And it goes through these different exercises to try and help us feel comfortable about the word vulva. But how it was received is it was started out as a social campaign. So we wanted it to go out on social assets that people could click through and head to our resources hub on our website to kind of find out more information and learn more. But it was also done in a really sort of light-hearted way that meant it was really inclusive.
Yeah.
The ads got blocked by the social media platforms. So instead, we decided to buy these billboards. So we bought billboards in London and New York.
I saw them. They look amazing.
They had this huge, it literally says the word like vulva. It was the first time the word vulva has ever been put on a billboard. And it said, look, if you feel triggered by this word, give our hotline a call. Then what happened is one of the billboards was in Shoreditch in East London, and it was on the same road as a school. And somebody complained, a parent complained. So in the UK, ads are managed by something called the Advertising Standards Authority, the ASA. And if I think about my days in like corporate beauty, if you got an email from the ASA when I was at L'Oreal, your heart would like drop. You're like, oh no, like what's going to happen? And they basically emailed to say, look, we've had this complaint in. We're going to be assessing it, taking to the committee. Just wait to hear. The committee reviewed it and they ruled in our favour. And they said, look, we think this campaign is amazing.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be complaining about using anatomically correct language. And on the day the campaign went out, search terms for the word vulva on Google increased 35%.
That's incredible.
It's, I'm really
proud
of that.
What happens if you Google search the word vulva?
It comes up.
Like a porn site going to come up? Because that's the worrying thing, isn't it? Like when you're trying to educate but protect at the same time.
The things that come up first actually are sadly often related to kind of problems, because we only really now use the word associated with problems, so cancer or issues around it. Hopefully our website comes up with a whole host of resources for people.
Yeah.
But I'd hope that porn doesn't come up.
It'll be interesting to see if this podcast gets banned because we've said the word vulva so many times, which if it does, it's ridiculous. And
I wonder if it's the most times it's ever been said on a podcast. But let's see if we can prove that break the algorithm.
So there's a huge skincare trend on TikTok, especially for the younger girls. I know my 13-year-old, even my 9-year-old is wanting to go to Space NK, Sephora and get these products, which are 9 times out of 10 too harsh for brand new, gorgeous skin. Yeah. How do we educate the young kids into buying the correct thing instead of going, oh my God, it's a trend on TikTok, I need it?
So I think there's, what's my view on this? You're totally right. There is this huge trend of younger and younger generations being exposed to so much content. Like I spend a lot of time in Sephora in the US, and the number of kids that come in and like, I want to get retinol because apparently it means I won't get wrinkles by the time I'm 20. And it's like, no, oh my God, no. So I think there's a couple of things. I think brands have a real responsibility to not market their products towards kids. And there are so many more products that are adult brands, but the packaging and the flavours and the design of them, you can tell they're like being marketed really, really young, which I really disagree with. But also there's some amazing brands that have launched that are really suitable for kids. So a friend of mine runs a brand called Indu, and it's skincare specifically for kids. He's a dad. And, that's like an example of like a brand that's specifically for teenagers, and it's been formulated for teenage skin.
It's hard to master that market, isn't it? Yeah. Something that's safe, but still attractive.
Yeah, and I think my view is that there are brands out there that have been formulated that they're natural, they're clean, they've been clinically tested. You can trust that they've been developed with experts and that they're going to be safe for kids or teen skin. Yeah, and that's definitely the case with our products. Like lots of mums tell us, one of the reasons I use your products in the shower is because I feel comfortable using them, but also
it's safe for my kids.
Yeah, particularly when kids evolve from that. You know, it sort of evolves from bath time with parents to showering on their own. And that's when their sort of routines and habits start. And I'm really passionate that if we can educate at that age, the sort of right routines and safe products that you can use, then we help that generation, because that then can stay with them as they grow up, you know, through motherhood, through menopause, through those other life stages.
But I think the good thing about these products, they are attractive. Like when I got my Luna Daily products, they lasted 1 second in my house because they all got stolen by my children. And now the girls have these on their bags. But I'm like, you know, these hand sanitizers are so strong, stripping their skin. But I'm so happy for them to have these.
Yeah.
You know, this is the equivalent of 100 wipes, completely natural, gorgeous, and they look cool.
Yeah,
you know,
and that's honestly, that's been my ethos with the whole brand. That that's actually our number one selling product. But so much of the appeal is that it just looks cute and sexy. And
it does.
I've tried to take, you know, what we love about other products we use in our routines and bring it into this body care category. That exactly the idea that someone can have that in the backpack on the way to school and it doesn't feel embarrassing. It's also really safe to use and it's going to really help them.
Yeah.
Has been a huge part of how I've designed the brand. So that's a real compliment. Thank you.
So your brand is the first British intimate body care brand to land in Sephora, which is incredible. Was that a real pinch me moment for you?
Yeah. I mean, I've spent my career in the beauty wellness space. So
because you worked for L'Oreal before, yeah?
Yeah, so I was at L'Oreal and then I was global head of brand at Charlotte Tilbury until I left to start up Luna Daily. And Sephora they're incredible retailer.
Yeah.
You know, how much they shape the retail industry and drive, you know, retail trends and also shopper trends.
Yeah.
And 4 weeks after I'd launched the brand, I reached out to Sephora and said, look, this is my brand, this is my proposition, and flew over to the US to have a meeting with them. And there was probably 3 things that meant it all came together. I think the first was they'd been looking at body care, intimate care. They were really interested in the space. They could see the trend was growing in terms of people caring more about their bodies, about holistic health, particularly post-COVID. So they were really looking for, a brand in the space. They loved the brand. They loved my story. They loved the products. And yeah, we did a deal with Sephora. So we launched into the US a year after I launched the brand. And they've been
That's incredible.
So supportive. And for me, how people can find my products is so important, because the fact that you can go into a Sephora and next to a lip gloss and a facial skincare product, you can buy products that are for all of your body, including your intimate skin, does so much for normalising the conversation.
Of course.
They're not in a dusty hidden back store, part of the store that's embarrassing to shop. They're like proudly on show.
Yeah.
And that does so much for changing kind of our behaviour and our embarrassment about, the category. And so, yeah, it was a real pinch me moment, and they've been the most amazing partner ever since.
What was the process like going from an idea to being on the shelves in Sephora? Like, for anyone listening, how do you do it?
So I think if I was to break it down, the first is conducting some research to check, does the world actually need this product? We have more products than ever in our lives. And does the world actually need this? Which our research showed that the world really did. Then you go into product development, and I am a product packaging geek. It's been most of my career. I absolutely adore.
So are you doing all this on your own, or do you have people working with you?
No, so the key people around me, I suppose, I've got a medical collective, so a team of gynecologists, dermatologists, pelvic floor physiotherapists, formulation specialists that advise me on the whole brand. I'm a branding product geek expert, but I'm not a medical expert, and so they're a really important part of my team. We then work with incredible formulation scientists and packaging experts and manufacturers, so everything is made here in the UK. Which was really important to me.
Why was that important to you?
Reducing our impact on the environment,
Yeah.
being able to have a really close hand on it, to be really close to the controls we put in place, to how it's being produced, the ingredients that are being used, where they're coming from, and the quality. Just to make sure we had a real, control on the quality. But I think going from idea to a Sephora, so building out your brand positioning and checking the world needs this, working on product development, and then going and pitching. And for us, there was definitely a bit of serendipity and luck in the timing.
Yeah.
Sephora were looking at this category at the same time, and they really backed me and the team behind me to bring it to life.
So Luna Daily has 3 product ranges. Can you talk me through each product?
Yes. So everything Luna Daily makes is for all skin, even intimate. So you can use our products all over your bodies. And the first range I launched was our core range of daily care products. So things like everywhere body washes, a no soap bar, oils, our spray to wipe from the go. And really they're designed for all skin and for all different ages. So we have an original range, a hydrating range, which is great for dry or hormonally reactive skin. So it's brilliant if you're approaching or going through the menopause. And then a fragrance-free range if you're super sensitive. Yeah. And when developing that range, there was a few things that were really important to me. So the first was what we were not going to put in them. So all of our products are natural. They're clinically tested. They're vegan. Okay. They're free from any allergens, any harsh ingredients. And we developed a formulation called Thermobiome Plus, which is a trademarked base formulation. Okay. So it's a combination of thermal water, prebiotic inulin lactic acid and vitamins E, C and F to balance, nourish and protect the skin. So the second thing about the products that was really important to me is that you really trust that they are developed with medical experts. So they're clinically tested and developed with our medical team, but also they're really enjoyable to use. That like no one's going to use a product that like, fine, I'm not worried it's going to give me a problem, but it doesn't smell nice or it's not enjoyable to use. And so the fact that they are so like enjoyable to use all over your body was really important.
Like no one normally wants something that's good for them, do they?
Yeah.
They normally want, the piece of chocolate cake, but when you hear like fat-free, it's kind of the appeal for me anyway. But with your products, you've maintained and retained that luxurious, sexy, cool. Yeah, I love it.
And that was the idea behind it, that, if we're going to encourage women to want to use these products, they're going to have to enjoy them. It's all very well saying, we'll use this like medicinal product that you're not worried is going to give you any problems, but it's not enjoyable to use. Yeah. And if you think about all the products that have existed in this category, they're not enjoyable to use. No. They're not enjoyable to shop. You hide them in the cupboard. You're embarrassed to use them.
Hide them at the till. You like that, putting it
hide
under
them everywhere.
Cabbage.
And so the idea was that they are just designed that they can be just left outside, out. They can just be left out in the bathroom or in your bedroom. I know you were saying you love the oils, and
I love the oil.
So much effort has gone into making sure that they do their job. So if we've got an oil for ingrown hairs, redness, and bumps, we've got a clinical user study on that product to prove that it reduces the appearance of ingrown hairs, it stops you getting ingrown hairs, it reduces bumps, but also the formula is just beautiful to use, so you want to use it every day. Yeah. Because how many times have you said you're going to get into a new routine and then you just don't do it because, it's not enjoyable? And I think that tension of making these products that functionally are going to work and help women, but also they're going to really enjoy using them and hopefully not be ashamed that they're using them was really important.
You still feel like you're getting some luxury and they're doing a job. Like, a woman... shave your legs, you got your bumps, you're using this, it's reducing the appearance and it's gorgeous on your skin. It's just like a win-win, I think.
Yeah, and when I first launched the brand, it was to tackle this sort of daily care routine of like trying to take on the feminine hygiene industry. But what's evolved is much bigger. And well, actually, in the very first focus groups we did, I knew we were going to launch a motherhood range because I spoke to mums and like pregnant women and people that had just become mums. And the common thread that came through the focus groups was, I'm already struggling with my identity, becoming a mum. Like I'm still me and now I'm this mum. Why all of a sudden, as I approach this life stage, am I thrust this category of products in like pretty pink packaging, this mumsy tone? The products are like, they're all really gross.
That's so true.
You'll use them because like you really need them, but you definitely wouldn't want to gift them or be gifted them. And everyone just said to me, like, why all of a sudden are the brands and the products just like so awful at this life stage? And then if you think about most of the changes that happen to a woman's body through the motherhood experience happened to your body. And just as I am passionate about making the vulva as normal as any other body part, I am about boobs and butts and perineums and nipples and bellies. And I really believe that all of those body parts should be as normal as everywhere else. Yeah. I was chatting to one of our medical collectives. She's called Dr. Penelope Law. She's an amazing obstetrician gynecologist here in London. She was saying the amount of women that are blindsided by pregnancy and that, they're really shocked by what happens because they're not educated beforehand,
Because it's supposed to be a natural process, but it's... at the time, it's anything but natural.
Yeah.
I wish this existed when I was pregnant. Anything I put on my skin, I would flare up. It was literally like a tin of beans, like all over my body. I'd be itchy, thrush, every bad thing you could possibly think of.
Yeah.
I had. And then you're scared about what you're putting on your skin. Can that damage the baby? You see a bottle of body wash and there's 7 million ingredients in them.
Yeah.
What can that do to the baby? Because you stop eating like your cheeses and your this and your that and drinking alcohol. But what you put on your skin as an expectant mother is so, so important as well.
So we developed this motherhood range. In fact, I brought some to show you.
Yeah.
Abby, well, I know you've tried some of these already, but for example, a hospital bag essentials kit, that's actually the number one seller. A repair treatment, so it's a silicone-free serum for things like C-section scars.
I wish the hospital bag essentials kit would have been available when I was pregnant. I've had 4 kids, and I was so worried about what I was putting on my skin. I reacted to everything. These products you can wear throughout pregnancy and beyond, and you would never have to change it. What you're putting is good on your skin. If you leave it in the shower, your kids are using it, it's perfect. So this is why I have this in my house. So everyone's safe. Everyone can use it. And, when you're in the bath and you're putting the oil on, you still feel like you're getting that little bit of luxury and you time. So, yeah, it's my fave.
And then my personal favourite is the nip and lip balm.
Yeah.
So the insight behind this product was, you're breastfeeding, your nipples go to hell. But most of the nipple balms on the market are made of lanolin, which is sheep's wool. So it's not vegan, but it's also really sticky. It ruins your nursing bras. They're all in either these tubs that you've got to scoop out or these tubes that you literally need 2 hands to squeeze.
Yeah.
And you haven't got 2 hands because you've probably got a baby in your hand.
Yeah.
And so the idea behind this product was it's single-handed, so you only need 1 hand.
Yeah, it's very clever.
This is a cooling silver tip. And so my friends told me about silver nipple caps were the only thing that helped cure their nipples.
I used to like cabbage leaves.
Cabbage leaves.
Frozen cabbage leaves. Do you remember that?
Everyone talks about cabbage leaves or silver caps. And so it's got a cooling silver tip. It's a formula called Lipex Lysen. So it's a vegan alternative to lanolin. It's super smooth. It goes straight on. It doesn't ruin your nursing bras. And also you can use it on your lips. So I used to use this on my lips all the time. Because also so it's not wasted. But it was sort of approaching this motherhood category of how can we have the same care and thought that's gone into the other products we use on our body and think about how can we really support women through this whole life stage where everything changes, your hormones go awry, but also women should have products that are as beautiful as every other life stage. You know, everyone talks about baby showers and everyone gets the baby something, but no one knows what to get the mum. And the other thing is that as well as the products being pretty awful, we're not talking about it properly. Women are not asked how they are postpartum. Yeah. They're not prepared for pregnancy or for post-birth. No. And that's how I met Michelle. So we were talking earlier that Michelle Kennedy is one of our investors. Yeah. Obviously the founder of Peanut. But I met Michelle as I was launching the motherhood range. Yeah. And she's just, she's incredible. She's incredible. But it just felt really synergistic what she's doing with Peanut and trying to connect women of different ages and stages and what we're trying to do to normalise the conversation. So it felt like a really amazing
it's a perfect partnership, perfect match. And I think, this mission you're on to just normalise these difficult, that shouldn't be difficult conversations around women's health, body parts is amazing. I'm going to join in this mission.
With you. Start saying vulva.
Yeah, vulva.
My work here is done. I got Abby Fancy to say vulva.
I don't mind saying vulva.
Great, good.
How important is sustainability and ingredients when launching a brand?
I think when you're launching a brand, understanding the impact you have at every level is so important. And that comes down to your packaging, your ingredients, where you're sourcing products from. Yeah. Even more so in a category like ours, where it's so important. There's transparency and people trust that your products are going to, do them no harm, but do the environment no harm. I don't sit here and say that we are perfect, and I don't think any brand can. If you're a consumer brand, you're ultimately creating products for the world. Yeah. But I really believe our products add real value to the world and the world needs them. So how I approach sustainability is how do we be the best that we can possibly be? And so, the idea behind that spray to white, the spray to white product was that, so many people are using wet wipes. Yeah. 90% of them have got microplastics in them. They're not recyclable. They're not flushable. They're ending up on beaches. There's 11 billion that ends up on a beach every year in the UK.
That is crazy.
And they're also really bad for your skin. They've got alcohol in them. They're really awful. And so taking that insights, we know that people want to freshen up on the go. They're running between meetings, they're on their period, they get a bit stinky, whatever.
Yeah.
But we don't want to, create wipes. And that's where the idea for the spray to wipe came from.
Well, that's like equivalent of 100 wipes, isn't it?
Yeah. And so I'm not saying we're perfect, but if we can do these little changes and encourage people to be a bit more conscious about what they're putting on their bodies, even what we were talking about earlier around, most people are so shocked when I explain what is in most typical products. Just having a bit more consciousness about the products that we're putting on our skin and the impact they have on
the world. So it was so interesting to me to discover that when you were out fundraising for your brand, some of the negative backlash you were getting was from women, which is just bonkers. This is a brand predominantly for women to educate, support, build a community.
Yeah, so fundraising, I would say, we've raised over $6 million for the brand. So I've now done it a few times, but I was definitely a novice at the beginning. I would say fundraising, or at least venture funding for businesses, I put it like politics and mortgages. Like, we're not taught at school. You've just got to learn how to do it somehow on the job.
How do you do it? What is the process for that?
Practically, you build out a concept.
Yeah.
You create a pitch deck, and then you reach out to lots of people and see if they'll invest in you. But that's oversimplifying it, but that is the process.
Yeah.
I think the things that I found really difficult was, first of all, I'd never done it before. So the first time I did a fundraise, I was like, you're just like meant to learn all of this. You have this new skill. The second thing was that most of the people I was presenting to did not have a vulva. Like, let's be honest, most of them were middle-aged white men.
Yeah.
Which was often met with resistance of either like, this feels very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But also they're not the target market. But I would just say, you know what? I'll send you some product. Go and chat to your wife, your daughter, your girlfriend, your mum.
Yeah.
And by meeting number 2, they're like, oh yeah, I think this is a thing actually. But yeah, it wasn't, there is, particularly in the UK, there's a really big focus on how do we raise the profile of female founders and how do we get more investment to women, because less than 2% of funding goes to women.
I can't believe that. Michelle revealed that stat to me, which is 2%. Just crazy.
Yeah. So we really need to try and change that. But there is.
And do you think that's because people aren't believing in women, or do you think that is not enough women are going out there to fundraise?
It's because there are not enough female investors. There are not enough women working at the investment funds, and there are not enough female founders raising businesses. And so women don't see other women at all in the space.
Yeah.
But there is also, we were talking about this earlier, there is also, it's not as black and white as a gendered debate. I have amazing male and female investors. I've got loads of women on my cap table, but I've got amazing men and women that really support me. Yeah. And actually through the fundraising journey, it wasn't, actually once I got men around the topic, they were really supportive. And I had an incident where, I've not talked about this before, but I had this incident where I was asked to go and present at a female club about my fundraising journey. And I was really vulnerable. I was really honest about like how difficult I'd found it. And at the end, this woman came up to me in front of probably 10 other women. And she was like, I've got 2 questions for you. Number 1, do you think you only raised money because of how you look? And number 2, do you think they just wanted to shag you? And I was like, I've just been really vulnerable and explained how difficult this was. You've just come up to me and basically said it's because of how I look or because they wanted to sleep with me in front of a load of women. Like, are you kidding?
That's happened to me, that.
And it's just, I also think the gendered conversation around investment also misses some of the other important topics. I am a middle-class white woman that I am way more privileged than so many other people, because there's so much research to show that people from different economic or ethnic backgrounds are even more disadvantaged. And I sometimes think the sort of black and white male versus female thing misses some of the bigger trends.
Yeah.
But there's no denying it's, the hardest thing I've ever had to do, fundraise.
How do you run your business?
So before I launched Luna Daily, I personally experienced burnout. And I'm a bit embarrassed to say, but it's the truth, that before it happened to me, I didn't really understand what it meant. I thought I did.
Well, it's a new word now. It's a buzzword, isn't it? I think a lot of people have experienced it without putting a label on it. I know I certainly have.
Yeah, and I thought I understood it, but I didn't. Yeah. And how it manifested itself for me was that it was like somebody had unplugged me. Like I just didn't work anymore. My brain stopped working. And I remember saying to my boss at the time, I feel really guilty. I feel like I failed, like I've just given up. And she was like, Katy, can you not see that it was because you refused to stop? Your brain was really clever and forced you to stop because you just wouldn't. And it was literally like somebody had unplugged me, and it took me, a long time to get back to normal. And one day I remember just working on my laptop and being like, oh, I'm back. Like it's like I've been plugged back in.
How bizarre. What symptoms are you feeling?
Just honestly unable to do the most simple tasks, anything. I just wasn't able to do anything. I wasn't able to make any decisions. My brain was just chronically exhausted and completely burnt out. And
that is scary, that.
Yeah, and I think that happened. And then I remember one of the very first weeks I was setting up Luna Daily, and it was in the pandemic, so we were in lockdown. And my now husband was on this Zoom call with his work, and they were being taught about the importance of the fire extinguishers in the office that was closed. Like the office wasn't even open, and they had this 2-hour training about the fire extinguishers. And in the same week, one of my best friends, who is a therapist, went on a suicide prevention course as part of her work.
Yeah.
And that very same week, a friend of mine's husband disappeared, and it turned out he'd committed suicide. And if I combine those things of sort of experiencing, work causing me really poor mental health and not supporting me, the amount of trainings I've got in my career that it's not the fire extinguisher, but that sort of thing. Yeah, I've never been on a training around how to support people struggling with mental health.
And how to spot signs of people who are struggling.
Yeah, and it's been proven that, particularly in the startup world, something like 85% of people have experienced burnout. Like it's really rife. Startup life's got a really bad rep. And I had this moment where I was like, on the one hand, your workplace should be definitely not causing you poor mental health. It shouldn't be the cause of it. But also, what if the workplace could help foster positive mental health?
Yeah.
And if you think about, we see our work pals more than we hang out with our family or our friends. You see them more than anybody. You're with them day in, day out.
So saying like you actually spend most of your time with people you don't want to be with.
Luckily, I want to be with them because they're my team. But
no, most people are going to work like, oh God, Joan on desk number 3, can't bear her.
Yeah.
And then you see like
Karen over there.
Yeah, you see like your best friends like once a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel really lucky because I've always had like great friends in the workplace.
It's so important.
But even if they're not your close mates, they could be quite well equipped, or they're more likely to spot if something's going on because they're with you day in, day out. And so I made a big commitment that I would only run this business if myself and my team around me were the happiest, healthiest versions of themselves.
Yeah.
And I try to do that in everything, I try to do that through every aspect of the business. So everybody that works at Luna Daily goes on a mental health first aider training course. It doesn't turn you into a therapist, but it does equip you with the skills to be able to spot the signs.
That's incredible.
Of poor mental health. And I found it personally so helpful because although you're being equipped with the skills to how to support others, it sort of helps you look at yourself. But then it transcends through everything we do of like, how can I be the best company to work for? It's not just around supporting through maternity, but I employ, more women than I do men just by nature of the category we play in.
Yeah.
And so how do we support through miscarriage and endometriosis all the way to menopause? We offer loans for people to be able to freeze their eggs if they want to. And so how can the workforce be, particularly for women supporting through those life stages, the best place to work, and I care so deeply about the people around me that have come on this journey with me. I want to make it as great a place as possible for them.
But that's an amazing thing to do. But your brand is so nurturing and caring and natural, so it would only make sense for you to have that environment for everyone else where you work. So people take note to that one. Listen to that. What is your advice for people looking to start up a new brand?
My advice is just go and give it a go. So I quit my job, my big corporate job, in the pandemic. And I think everyone thought I was mad. And everyone was like, and everyone always says to me like, oh, you were so brave. At the time, I felt no fear. I was like, the worst thing that's going to happen is it fails. And then I come back into this corporate world. But what's worse than that is not giving this a go and then ending up living with regret. And look,
or poor mental health or poor health.
Exactly. And so I think my advice would be just go and give it a go. That, what's the worst that could happen. And look, I say that lightly. Obviously, things like your mortgage and kids and your family are so important. But if you've got an idea, just take the first step of giving it a go. But then also don't let it be all consuming. I care so much about Luna Daily and the impact it's having on the world. But I also know we're going to blink and be 60. And the stuff that is valuable in life and the stuff that, we'll write on our gravestones is also stuff outside of work, and having those values fulfilled and having a really happy, healthy life inside and outside of work.
How do you manage the work-life balance then?
The biggest thing for me is that for the most part, I love doing Luna Daily. That I could do it every hour. It doesn't feel like work.
Passion.
But I've really learned that there are days in startup life where you feel like you turn around and you're standing on a rake. That's the only way I can explain it.
Yeah.
It literally hits you or like 10 rakes everywhere you turn.
Yeah.
And so the only way to prepare yourself when times are tough is to put in control mechanisms all the time.
Yeah.
So to make sure that you're not online every hour of the day, that you're not, also that's not a good thing to project onto other team members, like that's healthy.
Yeah.
For me, anything that's not with my phone, music for me is amazing. So I've been to see Coldplay an embarrassing number of times.
I love Coldplay.
I love Coldplay. But when you are at a
love
Coldplay
Chris Martin.
concert, I love Chris Martin.
So do I.
One of the times we're going off the tangent, but we were in Berlin and it obviously around loads of Germans and it went dead silent. I was a bit too pissed and I was like, we love you, Chris! And everyone turned around. But being in a music concert like that, where you're not on your phone, you've got no signal, but also you don't think about anything but, Yellow, Sky Full of Stars, all the other bangers that come on.
Yeah.
And that for me is quite meditative. I'm not good at meditation, but if I think about it, for 2 hours, I don't think about anything except Chris Martin and Coldplay. And so find the things where if you can meditate, great. I'm not very good at it. But if I'm doing something that where it's all consuming, where at the end of it, I'm like, oh my God, I've not thought about anything but just being here.
So what is next for you and what are your hopes for the future?
So I always get emotional with this bit, so I've got to make sure I try not to. I really want, I'm going to get emotional. I really want more people to feel like I feel now and less people to feel like I did as a teenager. And I want more little girls to grow up not feeling ashamed or confused or embarrassed. And not just little girls. I want more mums to be prepared for their pregnancy journey. And I want more women to approach menopause not feeling completely blindsided when it hits them. And so I want more conversations to happen between all ages and stages. Because I am proof that I'm free of the shackles of shame. I don't no longer feel it. And if we can normalise these conversations, I really believe that women would be happier and healthier.
Yeah.
And so I hope Luna Daily can be a brand that not just helps provide better products that mean that women live happier, healthier lives in their healthiest skin. Yeah. But also we help normalise conversations and we help try and change education. Less than 2% of all research around health goes towards women, and that includes around pregnancy and everything. And so if we can be a voice to try and help improve research towards women, improve the education system, improve that people can see great information on the internet that is helpful and resources, and that just more conversations are had. That's what I hope for.
I think barriers are getting broken down, definitely. And I know from the conversations I have with my daughters compared to what I had with my mum. Yeah. And my mum was great, but we are definitely smashing some taboos.
Well, the fact that we're having this conversation on here, I'm so hopeful that people listening, it means that they just go and have a chat with a daughter or a friend or a mum. And the fact that you're giving me a platform is proof that it's changing.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful to you because, you've given this amazing platform for so many conversations to be had.
Yeah, well, the reason I did this was to speak to incredible people, inspiring people. Literally, I go home after meeting amazing people like yourself and think, oh my God, I've actually done nothing. I want to build a brand. I want to do this. And that's the point. There'll be someone sitting at home listening to this thinking, I've got an idea. She did it, I can do it. And that's the whole point. And if you can tag that along with female health, it's fantastic.
If just one person listens and has a helpful conversation with one other person, then I will be happy.
Where can we buy Luna Daily for anyone listening?
So through our own website, luna-daily.com, but also in Sephora, Cult Beauty and Boots.
Okay. So you're dominating the space.
We're getting there.
Incredible. Well, thank you so much.